everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com, and it's Friday. Gotta get down on Friday, and you know what that means. It's my favourite time of the week because it's time for the operation to stop Will Ospreay to begin. That's right, after winning Wrestlers of the Week in 2018 and winning Wrestlers of the Week by a greater margin in 2019, this is the year that I have faith in every other wrestler in the world. I think this year we can do it. I think this year somebody can eclipse that flippy bastard Will Ospreay and win Wrestlers of the Week for 2020. Do you believe as well? Just pretend you do at least. Now, as always, before we get on to the first top 10 of the new decade, let's run through some honourable mentions. Mance Warner won the AEW title from Josh Alexander after Jacob Fatu unfortunately no-showed the event. Hopefully everything's okay there. Tetsuya Endo from DDT had a really good match, but it was a pretty catastrophic loss for him, which is why he doesn't get any points. More on that later on. Alexander Wolfe had a good main event in NXT UK, and the Elite, the Elite, are back to winning ways, or at least Kenny and the Bucks are, after a match. Oh, and Cody won as well. Oh, the Elite are all doing well over in AEW. So great stuff there. A lovely solid list of honourable mentions to kick off the year. Now on to my top 10, and the first point allocated of 2020 goes to the current AEW Women's Champion, Riho. Now, Riho defended her title in a four-way match on Dynamite, taking on Hikaru Shida, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Nyla Rose as well. She managed to get the win by rolling up Britt Baker while Britt Baker had the lockjaw clamped in on Hikaru Shida, but unfortunately Riho was then jumped by Nyla Rose after the match and just smashed to smithereens through a devastating table. Oh. It's alright though, because Riho is still the AEW Women's Champion, and I think that's the right decision for now. I don't think it's time for her to lose that title yet. I know that often she goes a few weeks without showing up on Dynamite. I believe that's due to the fact that she's still currently based in Japan, but at the same time, whenever she does show up, she still has the support of the crowd. But it's a bit unclear who Riho's going to be taking on next, because obviously Chris Statlander has that shot in the bag for, I think, next week's show. Nyla Rose now has beef with Riho, renewed beef after she slammed her through that table in the aftermath of this match we're talking about. And afterwards as well, when she was, nursing her wounds backstage, Riho was accosted by Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who was really mean to her actually. So who's she going to take on next, assuming that she beats Chris Statlander? But then again, you never know. Chris Statlander has been a very bright spark in the women's division, and it looks like her rise could get her some serious Wrestlers of the Week pointage in 2020. I'm hyped up today. You'd never be able to tell that I wish I wasn't back at work. Number 9 this week, picking up 2 points. It's one of the frontrunners of Wrestlers of the Week in 2019, and maybe the biggest wrestler today not affiliated with a major promotion. That's right, it's time to talk about Mr. Independent, David Starr. He appeared at Beyond Wrestling's Heavy Lies the Crown 2019, but even though it took place in 2019, it's still part of this week. It went up on... you understand what I mean? He still gets points for this week, even though it's not technically a match that took place this year. I hope you agree with my ruling. He took on Eric Stevens and picked up a big victory and probably put on the best performance of the night. So congratulations to David Starr. And it wasn't the only match where he impressed around that sort of time frame, but I can't talk about that one yet or take it into account for his points total this week because it hasn't yet gone up on demand. I'm not even going to mention which promotion it was from, but I'm sure we'll mention it in weeks to come. Next up, Ilya Draganov, one of my favourite wrestlers to watch live, I think, in the world today. He is so good at taking the match to another gear when he needs to, especially down the closing stretch. He may be one of the best closers in all of wrestling today, not including perhaps the main event level of New Japan. Draganov was in the main event of NXT UK this week, taking on one of our honourable mentions, Alexander Wolfe, in a lovely, crunchy, no DQ brawl. But this wasn't your kind of trashy Attitude Era hardcore match that was really careless and everything. It had a good structure to it. It was a nice combination of a wild hardcore brawl and I guess a Western style, well-paced, thoughtful main event. They really blended those two things together well, and both Wolfe and Draganov had a really good chemistry too because of their unique student-teacher relationship. Draganov picked up the victory, which I think was the best decision, but then things happened after the match, didn't they? Now, I'm not sure if I fully agree with what happened after the match, but I think in the long run, it's going to make more sense than it does currently, because in the build-up to the next NXT UK takeover, they need to hype Walter versus Joe Coffey, which is why Imperium came out and beat up Ilya Draganov just after his big victory, and then Walter came out as the mastermind behind the attack and stood there all proud on the entrance ramp, and was then attacked by Joe Coffey, his opponent at TakeOver. So I understand why they did that, but I do worry that it took a little bit of shine away from Dragonov's victory. However, bold prediction time. I think this will all pay off really well in the long run. I reckon that Walter is going to beat Joe Coffey, retain his UK championship, and then possibly lose it to Draganov. Maybe not at the first time of asking, but at some point down the line, I do think that Ilya Draganov is going to be the next UK champion. Next up, number 7, let's go to Monday. Welcome to Monday! No, it's Ross who does the Vince impressions around here. I can't compete. I can't summon enough gravel up in my throat. But yes, welcome to Monday Night Raw, and let's talk about one of the best matches of the week, I think. Buddy Murphy is my number 7. Murphy took on Alistair Black in a rematch from TLC, where they arguably had the match of the night. It was very, very impressive, and this match on TV was very impressive too. Do I think it was as good as the pay-per-view match? No, not quite. But do I think it was a worthy companion to that match and almost as good as what they did at TLC? Yes. Yes, I do. I thought both men were really, really good. Obviously, they've got an incredible chemistry together, and apparently, if reports are to be believed, Paul Heyman is very interested in elevating both men in the future. Hopefully, he doesn't get distracted by these wedding angles and cuckoldery and everything. You've got to take the good with the bad with Paul Heyman, don't you? And oftentimes, his storylines are a little bit weird. I'm just speculating. He may not have pitched all of these oddly sexual storylines, but I wouldn't be too surprised if he did. But yes, a great week for Buddy Murphy, even though he lost the match, which did cost him quite a few points on this week's table. Now, crossing the divide over to AEW once again. I'm not cool. We're going to talk about one of my personal favourites, and a man whose rise I foresaw on this very series about 2 years ago, Darby Allin. Darby got his rematch against Cody, didn't he? Because they went to a draw months ago now, actually quite a while ago, but they went to a draw. Darby helped out Cody in that recent tag match. That led to Cody accepting his offer of a rematch between the two of them, and that match happened to open the show on Dynamite, the first AEW match of 2020. Now, Darby lost, right? And that was disappointing, especially after he drew with Cody, but it's the old cliche and it works. He looked strong in defeat. Because I probably wasn't alone in thinking that when Cody hit the crossroads on Darby, that was the end of the match, especially on TV, not even on a pay-per-view. No, that's not what happened. Darby Allin kicked out and actually got the upper hand over Cody. Cody charged into the corner where Darby had previously exposed the turnbuckle, and then because Cody was now flat on his back, Darby went up top looking for the coffin drop, and then fell victim to wily old Arn Anderson, the head coach, as we all know, of the Nightmare Family on the outside. But it was still good from Darby, and I want to give a special shout out to everybody who helped me identify, because I'm way too uncool to work out who this was. Helped me identify the guy who accompanied Darby during his entrance, the guy who had the Cody mask on, and then Darby removed the Cody mask and he had a different mask on. That was Rake from the band Ghostmane. I googled and confused myself because I thought that Ghostmane was one man and there was no band, but apparently Rake performs in his band on live shows. I was so confused. Youth culture is now a thing of the past for me. What happened to the olden days when bands would just not obscure their faces, apart from Slipknot, and that was their gimmick, and that's fine because there was only one of them. But all the other bands would just, you'd know what they looked like straight away. I sound like my dad, man. But yes, an impressive loss, technically, yeah, an impressive loss for Darby Allin. Hopefully his rise can continue in a very crowded AEW upper mid card. You know, he's competing with guys who are all vying for popularity, but hopefully his quality shines through. I'm showing a lot of favoritism here, but I don't care, because I think Darby Allin's brilliant. Now let's go all the way across the Pacific Ocean from the United States to Japan and to Stardom Wrestling. And obviously Stardom have hit the news recently because they are going to have an exhibition match on the pre-show of the upcoming Wrestle Kingdom. Now, I think I'm right in saying that match isn't going to be broadcast, which is a massive shame for Stardom, but at least it's a step in the right direction for them. But this brings us on to a key member of the Stardom roster, and unfortunately, somebody who is retiring soon as well, even though she's pretty young, at the age of, I think, about 27, and her name is Kagetsu. Now, Kagetsu had, I'm not too certain about future Stardom bookings, but I assume the last or one of the last big singles matches of her entire career, which is a tremendous shame, against her old foe and rival, a thorn in her side, Mayu Iwatani. In fact, it may be more accurate to say that Kagetsu is the thorn in Iwatani's side, because she is the heel of this scenario very much so. Kagetsu is an excellent evil heel. Evil? Have I gone a bit far there? Are all heels evil? Yeah, no. No, some of them are just petty or greedy. Maybe she's not evil. No, she's a mischievous heel. She's mischievous, arrogant, cocky, dastardly. But is she evil? I'm going to stop short of evil. She's never, for example, drugged her boss's daughter and married them. Or, for example, she's never tried to murder somebody with a forklift truck. Actually, wasn't it Austin who tried to murder someone with a forklift? Anyway, the Attitude Era was a strange time. Kagetsu and Iwatani's match was a really good one. It had a big fight feel. It was pretty intense. You got a sense that Kagetsu was really going all out because it was one of her last big matches. She did a double foot stomp in the crowd, for example. It's not every day you see that. But ultimately, Kagetsu did lose the match, which I think was the right call. You know, when you're retiring, you've got to follow the old tradition, go out on your back, put someone else over. And I think it was fitting that it was probably her greatest foe in Mayu Iwatani. Now, I'm sad to see Kagetsu go. She's kind of like Naito for me in that when I first became introduced to New Japan, it was Naito who quickly caught my eye out of the majority of the roster that I'd never heard of because of his charisma. Kagetsu's very much the same. When I first started watching Stardom, she really caught my eye because of her charisma, not so much her in-ring work, even though she's also excellent as a wrestler. So it will be a shame to see her go, but we do have to look forwards and move on to her opponent who gets one more point this week. I'm sorry, Kagetsu. It's her rival, Mayu Iwatani. Now, it's a shame to say this, but a lot of Western wrestling fans may only be familiar with Mayu Iwatani as a part of that slightly ill-fated New Japan / Ring of Honor Supercard show in New York over WrestleMania weekend last year. Iwatani lost a match for the Ring of Honor Women's title. It was all just a bit of a mess. It wasn't the best match on the card, shall we say that, but it wasn't the worst one either. That was probably another Ring of Honor match. Ring of Honor really let themselves down on that show, and it wasn't Iwatani's fault. And I'm really glad that she still continues to have very good matches and continues to be the ace of Stardom and proving her worth. And it's not an understatement to say that she's the ace of Stardom. She is very much the focus of that promotion currently. She's the Okada, she's the Kento Miyahara. She is the one that everything else seems to be built around. And now that she's the top champion once again, it'll be interesting to see who rises up and takes that belt from her. It won't be Kagetsu, because as I've said, she is unfortunately retiring. This match was a great showcase of why Iwatani is such a well-rounded wrestler. She's got strength, she hit a nasty last ride at one point, it was awesome. She's got speed, she's got counters, she's got everything. She's really got everything, and I think that means she follows very much in the tradition of previous Stardom greats, such as Io Shirai and Kairi Sane. So Mayu Iwatani picks up a big 7 points, but we've still got 3 people left to go. Let's go back across the Pacific Ocean. I'm loving this new element of geography I've introduced, and hopefully you are too. And let's go back to AEW. Number 3 this week. Whoa! Oh, it's like a mirror. Whoa! It's Cody. Cody, as I've mentioned, had that really good match with Darby Allin. I thought Darby was awesome in the match. He was bumping and selling his arse off for Cody Rhodes, but Cody was excellent too. Not on his own, but accompanied by Arn Anderson. As I've mentioned, the head coach of the Nightmare family. What does that mean? Is he not just their manager? But the story made perfect sense because Cody could not put Darby Allin away when they were just one-on-one many months ago, and now he could, and it was directly due to the influence of Arn. Arn did a great job on the outside, by the way, but Cody also did a great job of responding to his instructions. Obviously, it's not real, but you have to sell that, and if it's just a manager barking orders at their charge in the ring, it doesn't come across quite as well, quite as clearly, as if the wrestler is clearly taking that on board, and that's exactly what Cody did. A couple of times over the course of this match, Cody wandered over and listened to Arn, and Arn was talking with his notes across his mouth so he couldn't lip read what he was saying. But it was right at the end, when Arn's influence was most tellingly apparent, when Cody was about to fall victim to a second coffin drop, but Arn got on the apron and went, "Get the knees up, kid!" I don't know if that's what he said. It was something to that effect. Cody did get the knees up. Darby landed spine first on Cody's knees, which was nasty, and Cody was able to pick up the pinfall victory. And I remain intrigued about Cody's general direction when it comes to AEW storylines going forwards, because as we all know, he can never challenge for that title again. Unless they find some way to circumvent that, possibly through him winning a War Games kind of team-based match for the right to once again challenge for the world title. I don't really know what they're going to do. Maybe he will genuinely never win that belt, but it's wrestling, so you can never quite say never. Despite that, I am still intrigued for what lies in store for Cody. At the moment, it's that feud with MJF. I'm really looking forward to seeing that play out, because if anyone can build a feud, it's Cody Rhodes. And after that, I just don't know. But I like the uncertainty, and I like to be kept guessing. So I'm pretty excited to see what 2020 has in store for the roller coaster. Number 2, let's do his theme tune as well. I'm embarrassing myself. It's Alistair Black. Yes, Alistair Black was part of maybe the best match on TV this week, or on WWE TV, certainly. Himself versus Buddy Murphy. And even though I would have liked to have seen Buddy win the rematch, when it's a performance like this, you can't argue with Alistair Black picking up the victory. When he moved up with his batch of peers from NXT to Raw and SmackDown, I thought Alistair Black is a future world champion. He's going to be a main eventer instantly. He's got it all. The ability, the look, the dark charisma. I thought they cannot mess this up. I thought by this stage, when he first got called up, I thought by now in 2020, he'd be a bona fide main eventer. And it just hasn't panned out that way because he stayed in his room a lot. But slowly the tide looks to kind of begin to turn with Alistair Black. Hopefully this is the beginning of a nice rise to the top of the card where I fully believe he belongs. This was a great match again. Himself and Buddy Murphy don't just hit sweet moves on each other, although they certainly do that. They've also got a really good chemistry. Not a physical one in terms of moves, just a good charismatic chemistry, a good rivalry. They really hate each other, and that comes across. I really enjoy their taunting of each other, or more specifically, Murphy's taunting of Alistair Black, and then Black getting revenge, and Murphy thinking, oh, I've just really messed up here. That was very apparent at the end of this match when Alistair Black hit that nasty black mass, caught his foot on like Buddy Murphy's chin or underneath it, and lifted him up for a second one. And it looked like it absolutely destroyed him, and it was brilliant. Alistair Black, 9 points to you, almost enough to lead the Wrestlers of the Week table heading into week 2. But not quite. And it's from a very unlikely source. I cannot wait to tell you this. That's right, number 1 this week is none other than the aerial assassin, no, I'm joking, it's not. It's Lana. Congratulations to her for her wedding ceremony on Raw. No, I'm joking again. It's Masato Tanaka. No, I'm joking. No, it actually is Masato Tanaka. That's right, the same Masato Tanaka who we most fondly remember from his brutal feud with Mike Awesome. And he leads the Wrestlers of the Week league table in 2020. That young gun, that little whippersnapper, what's he doing? What an upstart. He needs to pay his dues. But why is young trainee, young boy upstart Masato Tanaka picking up the full 10 points this week? That's because he won DDT's equivalent of the G1 Climax. A true victory for a veteran, a true storyline where like the old gunslinger comes back and wins the big one. It was awesome, and I think it secured him a future title shot as well. Now, I wouldn't expect him to win that title shot, but then again, you never ever know. I mean, no one would have expected him to win this tournament. He did so, and it was an excellent final against Tetsuya Endo, but I just thought it was such a big loss for Endo that I couldn't give him any points. I thought, yes, great match, but you need to stay in the honorable mentions because it was a match that you really should have won. But as is so often the case on Wrestlers of the Week, one man's loss is another man's gain, and Masato Tanaka picks up the full wedge this week. What a great match. He can still very much go. And yes, Endo helped him a little bit, but no, not that much. He's just still awesome. No pun intended. It also caps a generally great run for Tanaka in this tournament, in what was a very mixed bag of a tournament actually. It featured a lot of DDT regulars, excellent wrestlers, some more comedic wrestlers. Bull James was in it. He was in the tournament, formerly known as Bull Dempsey in NXT. UK indie wrestler Chris Brooks was in it. He made the semi-finals, or kind of the Block A decider, if you will. But it was Masato Tanaka who stood tall at the end of everything, and I'll be paying very close attention to his title match when it comes along. I want him to win. I'm rooting for you, Tanaka. Godspeed and congratulations, because you are my Wrestler of the Week. Now onto the league table. I don't know what to say because it's all reset, hasn't it? But I just want to reiterate the importance to each and every person in the world who is a professional wrestler. This is your chance. We need to band together and stop Will Ospreay from winning Wrestlers of the Week for a third time. My heart can't take it. I'll take anyone winning that. Come on, everyone, step up to the plate and let's get it done. Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments section down below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic and on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you enjoy what we do, then please do check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic, where you can pledge. And don't forget, of course, most importantly of all, to hit subscribe and to join us.